So, I bought the Lumix GH7 about a month ago, and I kid you not, I bought it literally the night before my flight to Da Nang. So I had no time to read the manual, no time to set up custom buttons, and I was about to walk into the monsoon season in central Vietnam. Anyway, back to the Lumix GH7. This video isn't going to be like a super in-depth review or a deep dive into the GH7, but more of a first impressions of this camera. Since owning this camera, I've brought it to Vietnam. I've shot a client project and also a few personal projects. I'm going to talk about the things that stood out to me the most during this 1 month of owning this camera, and there's going to be a lot of sample photos and footage as well. For my trip to Da Nang and Hoi An, I've paired the GH7 with this lens right here, the Leica 10-25mm f1.7, and this combo is amazing. You've probably heard of all the great things about this lens, and a lens this good deserves to be paired with a beast of a camera like the GH7, which brings me to the first thing I noticed about the GH7, the build quality. The GH7 is a chunky camera. It weighs more than 800 grams, but perhaps due to that additional weight, it feels extremely well built and very premium. It's the kind of body that feels reassuring in your hands and inspires confidence. It feels like you can throw it in whatever harsh conditions and it will survive just fine. And I can attest to its ruggedness as it was pouring non-stop during my time in Vietnam. The weather sealing on the GH7 gave me peace of mind to capture photos and videos like this. This is something I could never do with a non-weather sealed camera like this Lumix GX9, which would have drowned in Vietnam. However, that additional weight is definitely noticeable, especially with a big lens like the Leica 10-25. And there are times where I wish I had the G9 II with me instead, since that camera has 90% of the features of the GH7 and it weighs 150 grams lighter. Also, I'm aware that many micro four thirds shooters would balk at the idea of a micro four thirds camera weighing as heavy or even heavier than many other full-frame cameras. But when comparing the GH7 against other cameras, I think we really should be comparing it to cinema cameras instead of mirrorless cameras. Because don't let the form factor fool you, this is a cinema camera in a mirrorless body. And the video quality, codecs, and cinema features can easily match or even obliterate other full-frame cameras in its price range. Just a slight nitpick on the camera body design, it's still too easy to turn the back wheel down by accident. And there's a front record button as well, but maybe it's just the way I hold my camera. I find myself constantly pushing this button by accident. Fortunately, you can use the lock lever here to lock your camera settings, and you can even customize which settings to lock and which settings remains unlocked. The next thing that stood out to me is the screen. The screen finally settles the debate between articulating screen and tilting screen because it can do both. And let me tell you, I actually find this screen more useful when shooting photos because if you want to shoot it from waist level discreetly, you don't have to awkwardly pull out the articulating screen like on the other Lumix cameras. You can just tilt the screen and fire away. It's less hassle, it's more discreet, and I love it. Can we just make a petition to all camera companies to use this type of screen on all future camera releases? One thing the GH7 has that the G9 II doesn't have is the tally lamp. I think this would be great if you're using it in a production environment or when you're filming yourself like this. You wouldn't have to deal with the scenario where you talk to the camera for hours and then you realize you didn't actually record, but you thought you did. Don't ask me how I know that. But with a tally lamp like this is no longer an issue. It's a small but a very welcome change. And if you don't want the tally lamp to light up, you can always disable it in the settings. Next, let's talk about IBIS. The IBIS in this camera is great, possibly the best I've used in any system. I haven't really conducted a control test comparing the GH7 IBIS with the one in G9 II, but my first impression tells me it's more stable than the G9 II, which already has a very powerful IBIS. Check out this clip where I did a tracking shot of my wife with the GH7 at 25mm using IBIS plus E stabilization set to standard. This is not even using the E stabilization high, which is even more effective, and it already feels like it's on a gimbal. Just top marks for the IBIS. Autofocus is also extremely reliable so far. Coming from a GH5 II, this is a game changer. It's also one of the reasons why I bought this camera. It's to achieve autofocus parity with the G9 II. I use autofocus in low light and in low contrast scenes, and it just works. If you've owned an older DFD Lumix camera, you will know that it's not going to work at all in scenes like this. Scenes like this means manual focus only, for cameras like the GH5. It's not an exaggeration to say that the GH7 autofocus is light years ahead of the older DFD Lumix cameras. This new autofocus alone is well worth the price of upgrading if you absolutely need autofocus. There are still many features in the GH7 that I've not touched upon in this video, and there are many more that I still need to test, but honestly, after putting the GH7 through the kind of chaos that I did, like heavy rain, last-minute setups, it feels like the endgame camera for me. I can't think of any kind of shoot I normally do that I think the GH7 couldn't handle. I will test this camera heavily in the next few months, and maybe I'll revisit this camera in a long-term review. As for whether you should buy this camera or not, how does this camera compare to the G9 II that is filming me right now? Why do I still use Micro Four Thirds in 2026? And what do I think of the state of Micro Four Thirds in 2026? If any of those topics interest you, consider subscribing. I hope you find this video useful. Leave a like, drop a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!